Tonight in Washington, the House of Representatives passing the so-called Pay for Performance bill, mostly along party lines. The bill is a response to the raging battle over bonuses and compensation in those companies and banks that receive federal money. The bill imposes new rules and limits on executive bonuses at companies receiving TARP funds. By the way, it gives Timothy Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, power to decide reasonable compensation at all levels of any company. Congressman Barney Frank, the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, joins us here tonight. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
This legislation has got a lot of people sort of scratching their heads. Some of the same people, by the way, who were complaining about the fact you all had not put any conditions on TARP money are now more than a little concerned that you're going to give the Treasury Secretary the power to overreach. What's your reaction?
Well, that it's typical of the people who are determined to say that we're wrong no matter what we do. First, I would make one correction. It's not the Secretary of Treasury alone. That was in the original bill. People raised the question about expertise. So it is the Secretary of Treasury, subject to the approval of the major bank regulators, Sheila Bair at the FDIC, John Dugan at the control of the currency, the head of the credit union administration, and as a matter of fact, 3 of the 5 will be Bush administration appointees, so there's some balance there.
Now I feel better.
Well, the fact is it's not the Secretary of the Treasury. I understand you say one thing, and that's just not accurate. It is.
Oh, wait a minute, Congressman. Don't be a snit. I simply said I feel better about it being 3 members of the Bush administration.
No, and you were being sarcastic about that.
I was being sarcastic about that.
Yes, you were, and what I'm saying is it's a typical thing where people...
Well, let me ask you this, Congressman.
Lou, can I finish a sentence? Or what are we going to do?
You certainly may, because you're off on such a good start, I wouldn't impede you.
The point is this. It is not just the Secretary of the Treasury. You made that point as if it was a criticism of too much power for one man. I believe that that was a legitimate point, and we amended it to include a number of people so that we get some balance. Secondly, it does respond directly to the outrage that we had heard about the fact that when the recovery bill was passed, an amendment was added to the language that Senator Dodd pushed, and Senator Dodd, in my judgment, deserved credit for pushing the whole area. He didn't get everything he wanted. We undid the part that said it couldn't be retroactive. Now, whether or not that holds up legally, the courts will determine. But there was a great deal of anger that this amendment had been put in there. So we thought it was people should have a chance to vote on whether they wanted to take it out or not.
A chance to vote on it. They've also had a, I mean, Congressman, I have to say, I'm sort of stunned. You're saying that you're putting legislation through because people are angry, not because it has an effect that's desirable in the economy or the institution or appropriate?
You, of all people, should not think that people being angry and something be appropriate and mutually exclusive. You often
I didn't say they were mutually exclusive. I said that. I'm quoting you saying that was the reason that you did it.
No, I said that was part of it.
Part of it. What's the other part?
Lou, look, I'm sorry, but it's been a long day. If we can have complete sentences from each other, that would be useful. The fact is
I'm waiting.
Good. The fact is that I think this is a case where the public anger was justified, that the substantive public policy is correct. So it's not only done because of public anger, but that is a legitimate factor. There was complaints, and it's not just anger. There was an argument that it was procedurally inappropriate for there to have been a substantive change made in the recovery bill without people having had a chance to vote for it on it one way or the other, members, and having to show themselves. I do think that's a legitimate argument for reversing that and having openness. Then people can decide, given the fact that there's going to be a vote, whether they're for it or not. I found it hypocritical of the Republicans who complained that this was put in there and said it was terrible, who then voted to keep it there. But members were free to vote either way.
Well, Congressman, I mean, when you say start this partisan stuff, I mean, if you believe that you and Senator Dodd have showered yourselves with glory on the oversight of the financial institutions of this country, I'm stunned by that. I accept your criticism of the Republicans, but I don't understand what you're saying about your own roles.
Well, I will tell you what I say about my own role, that we have, in fact, done good oversight. I didn't say I showered myself with glory. I have said this. When the Republican administration came to us in the fall and said we had to have it, we resisted the speed with which they wanted, and we were able to get some oversight in there, not as much as we liked. But we did have the Special Inspector General who's made good reports. We had the GAO. By the way, we've also begun to get some money back, $29 billion paid in dividends already. We also pressed for restrictions on compensation and restrictions on the excessive, lavish entertainment. We have been sufficiently successful in that in cooperation with the Obama administration that a number of the recipients are now complaining that it's too tough. So in response to that, in the recovery bill, I did sponsor language that said, you know what, if it's too tough, give the money back, because it was originally hard for them to do that. So we have made it possible for them to give the money back, and I'm encouraging any of them who think we're being too tough now to do it. But I would say the fact that they have begun to say now we're going to give the money back is an indication that we have finally been able, in cooperation with the Obama administration, to put some real oversight over them.
If you would, listen to what AIG CEO Edward Liddy had to say as he defended the bonus payments that he made, which, by the way, were made possible through Senator Dodd's oversight. If you would listen to Mr. Liddy.
And Americans are asking quite simply, why pay these people anything at all? Here's why. I'm trying desperately to prevent an uncontrolled collapse of that business. This is the only way to improve AIG's ability to pay taxpayers back quickly and completely, and the only way to avoid a systemic shock to the economy that the U.S. government help was meant to relieve.
The House, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to comment, or
Please.
should I wait? First, I think it's wrong to say that Senator Dodd's amendment or his language allowed them to happen. The bonuses happened after the Federal Reserve, without congressional input, agreed to give them money last September. And this was not like the one that we voted on. They just did it, and the bonuses were paid then. What Senator Dodd did was to try to restrict this. He was not able to get everything he wanted, and so the Treasury, under the Obama administration, did succeed in getting a restriction on making them made retroactive. But if Senator Dodd had done nothing, they would have been paid. What we have now said is, okay, the point you make, Senator Dodd made impossible. The language change that said they couldn't be done retroactively is what we try to change today. So again, if people are critical of what happened in the Senate in that regard, or in the recovery bill, we have undone it. Secondly, I disagree with Mr. Liddy's statement. He said people have said, why pay them anything? I certainly haven't said that. I don't expect people to work for nothing. I expect good people to work for significant increases. What we say in the bill today is that there should be bonuses that are performance-based. I do object to extortionate bonuses. I object to people saying, you know what, we know the secrets, and if you don't pay us a lot more money just to stay here, we're going to quit, especially when some of them did quit a few months later. So we specifically say, no, of course people shouldn't work for nothing. They should work for good salaries, and they should be performance-based.
And set by is reasonable or not excessive by whom?
By a board consisting of the federal financial regulators, the control of the currency, the FDIC, and the Secretary of Treasury. And when you said before that we haven't done good oversight, well, I don't know what you meant by that. We did. Oversight is saying you shall not, and by the way, this only applies to people who are getting a capital infusion from the federal government while they have it. Right. If they think these things are a problem, they can pay the money back and have no further restriction.
Okay, let me be clear then as we wrap up here. The reason I said that the oversight had been lamentable is for a couple of reasons. First, there were no conditions precedent, and the bailout money itself is passed by the Congress.
Not true.
Back in, well, excuse me, I'm going to give you my version of the truth because you insisted that we speak complete sentences without interruption, so I'm sure you'll reciprocate the courtesy.
I will.
And point of fact, the Democratic-led Congress, along with the Bush presidency, pushed through the bailout, which did not have sufficient conditions precedent to the bailout money that addressed the issues of compensation, nor did it have any of the necessary oversight, including by your own committee established, and your own chairman of the oversight panel that you have put in place, Professor Elizabeth Warren, said she's not getting sufficient cooperation to carry out her job.
Now,
so those are the statements. And with that,
may I respond?
I've got, if you can do it in like 2 seconds, please, because we've really got
those accusations and give me only 2 seconds to respond? That's just totally unfair, Lou. You have misstated.
Well, you are, sir, an absolute exemplar.
May I finish, Lou?
Absolute nonpartisan objectivity. Go ahead.
May I finish?
Please.
I didn't say that. You engage in this hyperbole. Yes, I am a legitimate partisan. There are real differences between the Democrats and the Republicans here. Oversight has improved. Come on, Lou.
Congressman Frank, you are
Lou,
far better than
are we going to have a
this.
rational conversation or not?
Yes,
I think
I'm perfectly willing to end it, but you go right ahead.
Right, because you made a bunch of accusations and you want to shut me off. The fact is that we did put... We did put oversight in there in advance, including the creation of the Elizabeth Warren panel, which the Republicans delayed having appointed, including a special inspector general, including big powers from the GAO. And the other thing is, you say you don't want the Secretary of the Treasury to have power over this. We wanted to restrict compensation. You cannot write a number in there because these things have to change and be flexible. So, yes, we did write in restrictions in advance on restricting compensation. They were not well used under the Bush administration. They've been better used under the Obama administration. But there were conditions precedent there and elsewhere.
Congressman Barney Frank, thank you, sir.